Hello, good morning. Let me start by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you today from Ottawa on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. From the very start, our government has believed in the strength of our diversity. We've worked to build more inclusive communities where everyone can thrive, not just because it's the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do. More inclusive communities attract investments from industry leaders the world over. Despite this, we know there's more work to do in breaking down barriers and tackling systemic discrimination. Over the past few years, we have seen a dramatic rise in the number of hate-motivated incidents across the country. Our government knows just how important the work of organizations like the Canadian Race Relations Foundation is in addressing hate through information and education. That's why in Budget 2024, we made sure that CRRF will receive permanent, ongoing funding from the Government of Canada. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing the Honourable Kamal Khera, Canada's Minister of Diversity, Inclusion, and Persons with Disabilities. Minister Khera is one of the youngest women ever elected to Parliament. Prior to entering politics, she worked as a registered nurse in the oncology unit at St. Joseph's Health Centre in Toronto, and during the pandemic, she returned to the front lines volunteering in one of the hardest hit long-term care homes in the country in her home community of Brampton. Since being appointed to Cabinet in 2021, she has served as Minister for Seniors and now is the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion, and Persons with Disabilities. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Minister Khera.
Well, hello, everyone. Bonjour, tout le monde. Thank you, George, for that very kind introduction. And I also want to take a moment to acknowledge my colleague, Parliamentary Secretary Jennifer O'Connell, Mohammed, Josée, and everyone at the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, Statistics Canada, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for all your work in making today possible. You know, in the last number of years, as George has indicated, and in particular in the last few months, we have witnessed an alarming rise in hate crimes right here in Canada and around the world. In fact, we know that there has been an 83% increase in hate crimes between 2019 and 2022. Whether it is online or in our communities, we have all seen the devastating impact that hateful words and hateful actions have on our families, our communities, and our country. As a government, we have always been clear. Hatred and racism have absolutely no place in Canada. Given the alarming rise in hatred that we've seen across the country, we know that as a government, we must always speak out against instances of hate whenever and wherever they occur. And that is exactly what we have been doing since we came into government. We've been doing that since 2019, particularly when we invested over $100 million for Canada's first ever anti-racism strategy. And I'm very pleased to announce that we will soon be unveiling our new anti-racism strategy, which will further enhance our whole-of-government approach to combating racism. Through these strategies, we have been investing directly into racialized communities across the country to dismantle and combat systemic racism in every aspect in our society. In January, we've also set aside $3 million for the Building Communities Resilience Fund to empower local initiatives that strengthen connections within and across communities to better fight hate. At the same time, we know that while we fight back against hate in our communities, we also need to fight and address hate online. And so just a few weeks ago, my colleague, Minister Virani, introduced Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act. This bill introduces a baseline standard for online platforms to keep Canadians safe and to hold online platforms accountable for the content that they host. It is designed to create stronger protections for kids online and better safeguard for everyone in Canada from online hate. And now in Budget 2023-2024, we are taking some of the strongest steps yet to combat hate. Through the budget, we are proposing $273 million for Canada's first ever action plan on combating hate. This action plan aims to empower communities to prevent hate, better support victims and survivors, and to build trust between communities and institutions so that we can better work together to prevent and to respond to instances of hate. But we know when it comes to combating hate, the governments cannot do this work alone. The only way we can truly overcome hate is by working together, which is why we're so grateful for the work that the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, StatsCan, and the RCMP have been doing. Today's investment of $1.2 million for Building Bridges workshops will further enhance our Team Canada approach to combating hate by supporting victims and communities, by making it easier to report hate crimes, to provide resources and tools for community organizations to support victims of hate, addressing the significant knowledge gap that exists in the Canadian hate crimes landscape, including information on the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Charter, teaching investigation techniques on how to recognize hate crimes, developing strategies for outreach and engagement with communities who experience hate, and by providing fundamental knowledge to better equip police so that they can understand, so that they can investigate and support prosecutions related to hate crime. These workshops are providing communities across the country with the tools and resources they need to truly meet the moment and fight back against the alarming rise in hate that we're witnessing. You know, we're at a pivotal moment when it comes to addressing hate in our country, and the work is urgently needed now more than ever. And while some so-called leaders are openly and recklessly inciting hate by embracing white nationalist and far-right extremist ideologies, we are doubling down on our commitment to protect Canadians from this intolerance and hate. Because we know at the end of the day, hatred is an extremely serious problem facing Canadians, and it is incumbent upon us as responsible leaders to deliver and invest in a serious response for Canadians. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Minister. I would now like to welcome CEO and Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, Mohammed Hashim, to say a few words. Previously a labor organizer and a human rights advocate for 2 decades, he has dedicated his career to supporting equity, inclusion, and community empowerment. Please welcome Mohammed Hashim.
Good morning, bonjour. Thank you, Minister Kaira. Thank you, MP Chahal, MP O'Connell, and Assistant Chief Statistician Josée Bégin for joining us today. I'd like to begin by recognizing that we are speaking to you today from the traditional land of the Algonquin people, the past, the present, and future caretakers of this land. Today, we are announcing the beginning of a national initiative to combat hate in Canada. The Building Bridges workshops continue the work that the Canadian Race Relations Foundation has been leading over the last 3 years to transform the way this country addresses hate. Over the last decade, there has been a disturbing rise in hate crimes across our country. In the past 3 years alone, the number of police-reported hate crimes rose by 83%. We also know that 80% of hate crimes go unreported across the country every single year. Hate, whether it be on the basis of race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or gender identity, tears at the fabric of our society. Every incident of hate inflicts direct harm and sends shockwaves of fear and intimidation throughout entire communities. These workshops, which will take place in 12 cities across the country, are the first of their kind. They represent a significant milestone in addressing hate, hate crimes, and discrimination in Canada, and building a safer and more inclusive society for everyone. They have been designed to help build bridges across and within communities, as well as between communities and law enforcement. These workshops are critical to fostering further understanding of the systemic challenges and gaps in addressing hate crimes and incidents in Canada, and they will connect people with crucial community-informed tools and resources. These workshops, we want to create a safe place and time for those impacted by hate to share their insights and experiences and learn about their rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Over the next year, the workshops will do three things. First, we're going to educate communities on how hate is understood and addressed through the criminal justice system. Second, provide shared learnings and best practices on how to support victims of hate, either through community support or by going to the police. And third, increase awareness and education of hate crimes and incidences to police forces across Canada. The first of these workshops will kick off in British Columbia, and we are inviting all those from communities impacted by hate and with a stake in ending it to join us. We look forward to engaging with you and learning from your insights and experiences. Today, Canada stands at a crossroads. We have a historic opportunity to reverse the rising tide of hate, but we know the space, the time, and the will to have but we need the space, the time, and the will to have difficult conversations. The Building Bridges workshops are a critical beginning to that hard work and deeply necessary in this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed, and thank you to everyone at CRRF for your leadership on this initiative. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Parliamentary Secretary Jennifer O'Connell. Jennifer O'Connell is the Member of Parliament for Pickering-Uxbridge and the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety, Democratic Institutions, and Intergovernmental Affairs. MP O'Connell has previously served as the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure, Democratic Institutions, and Intergovernmental Affairs, the Minister of Health, and the Minister of Finance. Jennifer was appointed as a member of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians in 2020 and has been a member of several standing House of Commons committees, including Finance, Health, National Defence, Transport, Public Safety, and National Security. Please welcome Parliamentary Secretary Jennifer O'Connell.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of Minister LeBlanc and our entire team at Public Safety. I'm pleased also to be here with Minister Khera, my colleagues George, and Mohammed, as well as Josée. Thank you all so much for being here to talk about this important cross-country initiative. A joint collaboration between the Canadian Race Relations Foundation and Statistics Canada. This series of workshops for law enforcement and communities to be held in a number of cities throughout Canada in the coming months will help to increase awareness and support improved hate crime reporting. At a time when we know hate crime is on the rise in this country, this type of initiative is more important now more than ever. As a federal Crown corporation dedicated to combating racism, the Canadian Race Relations Foundation has taken an active role in efforts to prevent and respond to hate in Canada. Today's launch by the CRRF and Stats Canada is but one example of these efforts, and one of the many actions across the federal government to protect all Canadians from the impact of hate crimes. None of us stands alone in ensuring that Canadians are safe in their communities, especially during periods of heightened tensions. To confront hate in all its forms, the federal government is planning to introduce Canada's first ever action plan on combating hate, which will be led by Canadian Heritage. Budget 2024 has proposed over $273 million over 6 years, starting in 24-25, with $29.3 million ongoing to advance this action plan. Public Safety Canada will continue to work collaboratively with partners such as the Canadian Race Relations Foundations and the RCMP, and their jointly co-chaired Hate Crimes Task Force, as well as provincial and territorial partners, to increase awareness of the scope and impact that hate crimes have across this country. With the launch of the Building Bridges and the Canadian Race Relations Foundation and Statistics Canada, we are further pursuing the bar in the response to hate crimes in Canada. And now more than ever, all leaders must stand up against hate and groups who want to divide Canadians and target vulnerable communities. This work is crucially important, and I'd like to thank everyone involved for these significant initiatives. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, PS O'Connell. Now I'd like to invite the Assistant Chief Statistician to say a few words. Josée Bégin became the Assistant Chief Statistician of the Social Health and Labour Statistics field in January 2023. With 30 years of experience in the public service, she now oversees the overall planning and coordination of statistical activities and programs related to the social domain. These statistical programs include the Labour Force Survey, the Disaggregated Data Action Plan, Canada's Quality of Life Framework, Justice and Community Safety Statistics, and the content of the Census of the Population. Please welcome Josée Bégin.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to be here today with Minister Khera and Mohammed Hashim from the Canadian Race Relations Foundation and Parliamentary Secretary Jennifer O'Connell for this announcement. As the Minister and Mohammed touched on, hate is on the rise in Canada. The country experienced a rise in hate crimes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Using police-reported data, Statistics Canada recorded an 83% increase in hate crimes between 2019 and 2022. According to the General Social Survey on Self-Reported Victimization, approximately 80% of hate crimes in Canada go unreported. Having accurate, reliable, and valuable statistics about hate crime is at the foundation of all efforts to address it. That is why Statistics Canada is pleased to be part of the Building Bridges workshops in collaboration with our colleagues at the Canadian Race Relations Foundation and our community and law enforcement partners. Statistiques Canada dirigera la première des 2 journées des ateliers Bâtir des ponts qui se tiendront dans une douzaine de communautés à travers le pays. Nous avons travaillé en collaboration avec les experts sur les crimes haineux à travers le pays afin de développer du contenu sur les crimes motivés par la haine. Et nous offrirons une formation de grande valeur aux services de police sur la déclaration normalisée par le biais du programme de déclaration uniforme de la criminalité. Nous recueillons déjà des statistiques auprès des services de police du pays à l'aide du programme de déclaration uniforme de la criminalité. Cette enquête mesure l'incidence et les caractéristiques du crime au Canada, y compris les crimes haineux. Additional funding provided in Budget 2024 will allow Statistics Canada to improve the collection and availability of hate crime data in Canada, either through victimization survey or police-reported data. As the Chief Statistician of Canada, André Loranger, put it best, better data will allow for better insights and more informed decisions to ensure all Canadians feel safe and respected. I look forward to our continued collaboration with the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, as well as communities and police agencies across Canada. Thank you. Merci.
Yes, I do. Thanks. Hi, Minister Kaira. I'm wondering if you can tell me what's happened with regards to the disability benefit. The NDP has gone from saying, they're not sure they're going to support the budget, citing what they thought was an inadequate disability benefit package, to now saying they will support it, and that they've heard the Liberals are willing to play ball on some of this. So have you topped up the disability benefit? What's going on?
Look, I think first and foremost, I think it's very important to acknowledge that for the first time in Canadian history, we have a funding for statutory benefit and Canada Disability Benefit. And I think that's really, really important, I think, for all of us to realize the fact that we as a country, for the first time, have a national benefit in Canada Disability Benefit. As you know, in Budget 2024, we put forward, has $6.1 billion, the single largest line item that you would see in this budget, that is there to support more than 600,000 persons with disabilities, that is going to give them, over $2,400 tax-free per year. I think that's really important. And I think it's also important to recognize the fact that just like any, benefits, progressive benefits that the government of Canada has put forward, particularly our government, like the Canada Child Benefit, like the Old Age Security, like the Workers Benefit, all these benefits are actually meant to be expanded. They're meant to be enhanced. And this is an initial investment that we put forward that will help us unlock the work that needs to happen, particularly with provinces and territories. And I think it's really, really important that, this benefit, and we've been very clear that provinces and territories do not claw back any of the provincial benefits, based on the fact that we put forward the federal benefit. And that work is ongoing right now. But it really, and I do want to take a moment to thank the disability community because, when you talk about the work that our government has been able to do since, 2015, when we first passed the Accessible Canada Act that led us to have a disability inclusion action plan. And one of the pillars is around the financial security for the supports for persons with disability. Canada Disability Benefit is a big part of that. We passed a, legacy legislation, and now we're very, very happy that we have funding that is going to now start the work that needs to happen to get these checks to Canadians, these benefits to Canadians with disabilities, and to continue to work with provinces and territories to ensure that there are no clawbacks, that this is an income supplement, not an income replacement for Canadians with disabilities.
If I'm reading between the lines, that the main change is that you've gone to the provinces and territories to tell them they can't claw back what they've got, and that's been enough to satisfy the NDP? Is that what I'm to understand for their change in tune here?
Look, I can't speak for the NDP, but I can speak for the fact that as a government, we are very proud of the work that for the first time in Canadian history, we have put forward a national benefit in Canada Disability Benefit that is going to help more than 600,000 individuals with disabilities. This really is around creating this social safety net around Canadians that we as a government have been very proud to do, with the Canada Child Benefit, Old Age Security, Workers Benefit, to ensure that we're supporting Canadians. This is our initial investments. It's the right thing to do, and I'm very happy to work alongside all colleagues, particularly, from all parties to make sure we get this right. But it's really important that provinces and territories do not claw back any of the benefits that we're putting forward, and to ensure that this is an income supplement, not an income replacement. And we're going to make sure we continue to do that work to ensure Canadians with disabilities are better off.
I want to read you a tweet and get your reaction to it. It's from the mayor of Hampstead, Quebec. He tweeted this yesterday. He said, "Given the recent behavior of the pro-Palestinian group, Canada should reconsider its immigration plan for Gazans. Their values seem incompatible with ours, and I have no desire to welcome more hatred into our country." Given the subject of what you're talking about today, and as the Minister of Diversity and Inclusion, do you agree with this sentiment? And if not, what would you tell the mayor if you had him in front of you?
Look, I think it's really important that we all recognize that it's been an extremely difficult, months, I will say, for many communities right across this country, whether it's the Jewish community, whether it's the Muslim community across this country. And we as a government, and I think we as Canadians, ought to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to bring Canadians together, to ensure that we are not inciting hate, that we're actually making sure we're doing and really uphold the values that I know we're so proud to share as Canadians, of compassion, of unity, and to make sure, you may not have to agree with your neighbors. You may not have to, and disagree on fundamental things, but we can do that with respect. And I think it's really important that we work together as a country, and that's why the announcement that we're putting forward today, $1.2 million to work alongside the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, the work alongside StatsCan, and the work alongside, law enforcement agencies right across this country to better, first and foremost, to, educate community members on hate crimes. As has been mentioned, since 2019 to 2022, 83% increase in hate crimes. 80% of hate crimes go unreported. This is a work that is important as we speak, working alongside community members to support people where they are, to address hate crime, to work with communities, to ensure our law enforcement have the tools that they need to address hate. As a federal government, we are going to leave no stone unturned to combat hate in this country and to ensure that we're supporting the work that, my colleagues here are doing, but at the same time, to do more. And in fact, in this budget, we put forward $273 million for Canada's action plan on combating hate. Whether it is the work that, and getting permanent funding for the Canadian Race Relations Foundation or the work that our two special envoys are doing, whether it is, Amira or whether it is Deborah, that's the work that we need to do to bring, communities and Canadians together and to not incite hate.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you want to do a photo?
Oh yeah, we should do a
Forget to roll?
picture. Do we do it?